Hello, my name is Michelle. This is my car confession connected to money. I said I was going to do these as I was waiting for my clothes to dry and wash. So, this week I wanted to talk about how beneficial it has been to budget by paycheck. I have watched The Budget Mom for years, and I know that that's her whole brand, which is budget by paycheck. But honestly, I didn't really understand what she was kind of talking about, only because for the most part I've only had like one source of income, which means, it was my 9 to 5. When it hit my account, I just budgeted that money. And now that I'm retired, I still have my pension that comes once a month, but I'm also doing like some supplemental work connected to like my old teacher self. I'm also running a real estate business from out of state. I'm a real estate investor slash landlord. And so I have money coming in at like different times of the month. And so, especially with my supplemental work connected to like my teacher self. So it has been super duper helpful now to like literally just set up a budget directly connected to just that set of money. And especially because this supplemental income is being used to bridge the gap between my monthly expenses and my pension, and then anything above that is going towards first savings and then to my business. So my first line of line item stuff is my personal savings, because I have found that you just make better decisions when you have a bigger margin between life and money. So now that like I'm getting into this routine of sinking funds and saving, I'm really loving it. A little bit does go a long way. It really does start to add up. And so what I have done is, on top of the budget by paycheck idea, is I'm developing these money routines, because I definitely feel like decision fatigue is real. And so what I have figured out now is, now what I'm doing is every single time the supplemental money hits, I start off by saving. I was doing 125, because that's about how much the average shift is, 125, 130. But now that I've kind of been doing some same type of supplemental work, but it pays a little better, it's 170. So now I've decided I'm going to take, every time that money hits, I'm going to take $170 of it and put that towards my 1 month ahead fund. It's going to take me about a year to get 1 month ahead, but I'm completely okay with that. Secondly, I fund my sinking accounts, and I have two different types of sinking accounts. It's all digital. I love the cash stuffing videos and all that, but because I'm a minimalist, I just like to try to keep things simple. And so while I would love to like pull the money out and then stuff it in envelopes, but then that means I'm gonna have to like take the money back out, take it back to the bank. It was again decision fatigue. It was way too many logistics in that. So instead, I just have sinking funds, and I use Ally. And Ally is not separate accounts like Capital One, but instead it's like one account, but you can have these different buckets. And so my first set of sinking funds is kind of like a revolving one. So that's household, office, events. What's another one? Miscellaneous. So those are ones that, if I need to move the money, I do. And then my longer term ones would be like travel, birthdays, car, business registration. Those are things that, I'm not going to necessarily be doing every single month, but when I need it, I'll have the money there. And so how I have been figuring this out is, like, once I take out, the 125 or the 170 for my 1 month ahead fund, then I look at what's left, and then I just divide it by three. So a third of it is going to my sinking funds. Another third is going to my business stuff. And then the other third is it depends on what's happening in my life, if that makes sense. So, for instance, because I have an upcoming trip, I'm going to a wedding, that last third is going to go into my travel budget and just things connected to that. Like if I need to get a new outfit, I'm really debating, should I go to a barber and let him fix what the other barber kind of messed up. So I don't know, because these sides are driving me crazy, but we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to do that. But I have found that definitely adding in the money routine is really what makes this easier and easier and easier, because then that way every time you get some money, you're not like, what do I do with it? Instead, you already know what you're doing. You're just figuring out the amounts connected to it, you know. So for me, my first always is I'm pulling from the supplemental money. I'm pulling one shift worth to save, so that's a given. Then I am dividing whatever is left by 3, and then it goes to sinking funds, and then it goes to my business, my real estate business, just to build up that buffer and build up my capital reserves. And then that last third is just connected to whatever's happening in my life. So it could be travel, it could be maybe there's some things happening in my real estate business where I need to funnel that money to that. But that way, I feel like it's just helping not have to overthink and not feel like every single time I get some source of money, that's like I'm figuring out what to do with it. Now I know exactly what I'm doing with it, other than, you know, once, because my pension pays my basic expenses, so any money over that is always going to go to these things now. That way I feel like I can build up my savings, get more confident in my money management skills, because that way, I'll know how much money I have, but I'll also will keep being able to live beneath my means, if that makes sense. Because I just watched this really cool video by the Budget Mom, and she was talking about how it's this margin, it's this gap, and you want this gap getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I feel like that is what's happening right now, because right now, if I took out the supplemental work, it would be my pension and it would be my expenses, and they would be like choking each other, meaning there is no gap at all. But the supplemental work is now allowing me to build like a little bigger gap. So I probably have about this much of a window to work with right now, as far as here's my income and what I'm bringing in just in different ways. And then here's my expenses, which means I have this part in the middle here that is functioning as my margin or my gap. Now, as my real estate business gets kind of up and running, meaning right now I have a rent by the room, which is really just breaking even. I'm in the process of saving for a basement renovation, and I have a duplex that once the basement renovation is done, then I'll start on the duplex. And the plan with the duplex is that I'm just going to fix up one unit at a time, and that hopefully within the course of 3 years they'll all be fixed up, because you figure that's giving me a year per unit, and it may not take that long, but you know, worst case scenario, that's the breakdown. And so yes, so I hope that this has been helpful. So really just the takeaways are: one, budget every time money hits your account. So what that means is, if you're somebody who's doing like the gig economy work, let's say it's Instacart, DoorDash, instead of doing those daily payouts and then that money kind of just disappearing, do a weekly payout, and then that way you know, okay, this is how much I'm expecting. You kind of have that amount in your head. Really, you don't even really need to do that though, because if you're doing it like the way I do, the amount is irrelevant, because you already know how it's going to be divided. You know, just kind of prioritize. Like the first step might be filling in the gap between your expenses and your income, and then whatever is left over that, you know, you can decide what's going to happen. So again, I hope that you found this helpful. As always, be grateful. Bye bye.